As soon as President Biden was declared the winner of the 2020 election, he assumed the daunting task of steering the federal government's response to the coronavirus. Pandemic. He also set a target to administer at least 100 million vaccinations in his first 100 days in office. And recently, the president has expressed hopes for an even higher target. But Biden officials say the situation they inherited from the Trump administration is far worse than they expected. And with the fate of the next coronavirus relief package still up in the air, some are questioning whether the Biden administration will be able to hit its vaccination and pandemic goals. For more, I'm joined by Isaac Stanley-Becker. Isaac is a national political reporter for The Washington Post and co-author of the article 10 Days of Struggle Inside Biden's Early Coronavirus Vaccine Effort. Isaac, welcome. Thanks very much for being with us. Your article suggests that the Biden administration did not hit the ground running as fast as it would have liked to in terms of its pandemic response. How much can the previous administration be blamed, or are we just seeing sort of growing pains here with a new administration?
It was a chaotic transition, to be sure, on a number of fronts, and the vaccination effort was certainly part of that. We heard from Biden administration officials and previously transition officials that they were not getting as much cooperation as they would have liked. They were not able to get access to some of the platforms and other tools that they now have the reins of. And so some of that made it more challenging. They were engaged in conversations with members of the previous administration, as well as with senior leaders of the pharmaceutical companies that are involved in this effort, and with state and local health officials across the country. So they were able to do a fair amount of their homework in advance. Now, that isn't to say that there isn't still a fair amount to do just in wrapping their arms around what it means to be in control of this effort, which is the most ambitious vaccination campaign in American history. I think there are growing pains for the new administration, just as there are growing pains for the country overall. This only began, in the middle of December, so we're still in the very early stages of this.
So the president promised, as you know, even before he took office, that there would be 100 million vaccinations in his first 100 days. So what obstacles does Mr. Biden face in hitting this goal?
There's been a lot of debate about this target of 100 million shots in the first 100 days. There are aspects of it, it's always risky when you set a target for yourself, because there is a risk that you're not going to meet it. And there's certain aspects of the process that still remain uncertain. Is there going to be enough supply? Do state and local authorities have the resources and the capacity to keep administering this day after day at the rate that they're going to need to hit? On the other hand, we've already reached as a country that level. It would mean 1 million vaccinations each day, each of those 100 days, to glide into this. So what they need to do now is to keep this rate up, and as they said, ideally lift it. They've said they would like to do 100 million shots a day. Ideally, they would like to go beyond that. They're not going to pack up their bags and go home once they're done.
And finally, you also discussed the Defense Production Act, something President Biden has said that his administration would use more than the previous administration did. So how has the Biden White House used this authority, and could we see it used more in the coming weeks and months?
Yeah, the Defense Production Act is a complicated issue, and some of the ways that it's been discussed, including by top White House aides, does not really reflect what's actually happening behind the scenes. It's this Korean War era law that allows the government to give priority rating to certain contracts, in certain cases to compel production of specific goods, and also to issue loans and other projects to spur industrial base expansion or other sorts of projects. And what we know is that the Trump administration used this law 18 times in relation to vaccine production. So they felt that they really sort of tapped out its use, that they exhausted its potential. We heard a lot from Biden's team that they didn't think so. They wanted to expand its use. What we've seen so far is not new immediate actions. What they've said that they've done is try to engage agencies and engage others in conversations about long-term expansion of the industrial base, trying to build a more reliable and resilient supply chain to bring some of the manufacturing of these very hard to find goods back to the United States. But that takes time, and it also takes a lot of money. It can't happen in 10 days. It can't even really happen in a matter of weeks.
All right, Isaac Stanley-Becker. Isaac, thank you.
Thank you.